Okay, made a few adjustments. Let's see how that works out. Twitch. YouTube. Facebook need to be right here. Come on. There we go. Nope, that's wrong. That's Discord. So this is on B. Facebook Lite. Tomorrow you're supposed to be live. There we go. Good stuff. We live on Facebook too. Alright, Facebook. Switch this. This Twitch. Think we're good. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. I see you.
Yeah, what you want to say, practice? Yeah, bring back a lot of memories. I'm up here getting emotional with you guys from this. So imagine what it's going to be when that day comes. All I want is the people that love and care about Allen Iverson to feel good about that day. And the ones that don't love him, I want my family, my friends, and my fans to say, aha, Yeah, what you want to say, practice?
This is funny. Yeah, I'll get to the point I can share some YouTube with you. Wait, who's this guy? Oh, showing George Floyd right before the
I want cream fries. $4 now at Arby's. Still got curly.
Oh yeah, I gotta get this chat.
Arby's, we have the meats.
So that gotta be restreamed.
Now, if I'm going to freeze it here, I'm sorry, I said I was going to let it run, but we saw you holding something up. Can you describe, and again for the record, this is 7:45:10, describe for the jurors what you were doing there.
I was holding up the $20 bill that I just received.
And is that something you always do, or something about this?
No, when I saw the bill, I noticed that it had a blue pigment to it, kind of how a $100 bill will have. And I found that odd, so I assumed that it was fake.
Okay. But Mr. Floyd is still there, correct?
Yes.
And you completed the transaction?
Yes.
All right. And then upon doing that, did he leave the store?
Yes.
All right, so now let's let that...
this is details. Sad stuff right here, man. It's a little time I started.
So after you looked at the bill, though, he didn't leave immediately, did he?
No.
All right, so that is the end of Exhibit 29. I believe the time there is 7:45:51.
They just showed the guy going there.
But you saw that
Inspect his
timestamp on
money.
there.
This is a brother doing this. He know better than to call the cops on another brother.
If that time is correct, that's the time he left the store on this video.
Yes.
All right. After he left, did you look at the bill again?
I did.
At the time that you were working on May 25th of 2020, what was the store policy about cashiers accepting $20 bills?
The policy was that if you took a counterfeit bill, you would have to pay for it out of your money or your paycheck.
It gives you an incentive to be careful about what you take.
Yes.
All right. So did you think that bill might not be legitimate?
I did.
So what did you decide to do?
I took it anyways, and I was planning to just put it on my tab until I said it against myself. And as you can see in the video, I kept examining it, and then I eventually told my manager.
All right. And when you told your manager, what happened next? What were you told to do?
He told us to go out to the vehicle and to ask him to come inside to discuss what just happened.
And when you say vehicle, what are you referring to?
The car or the SUV, I think, that George Floyd was in.
How did you know that?
I could see it from where I was standing in tobacco from the store.
So we know from the video that those windows we could see where that bus was, that's actually Chicago, correct?
Yes.
38th runs along the backside of that store.
Yes.
Is there a way to look then out onto 38th from the store?
Yes.
And I guess what I'm questioning is, how did you know he was in that vehicle?
I watched him walk to it.
Pretty good way to know. And so you saw him go out to that vehicle after he made this purchase?
Yes.
And so your manager, what were your instructions?
Just to go out to the vehicle and ask him to come inside to talk to the manager.
And did you in fact do that?
Yes.
All right. When you went out there, well, let me ask you this: how many times did you go out there?
Twice.
So let's talk about the first time that you went out there. Did you go by yourself or with some other people?
The first time I went with one other person.
And you are aware that there is a security video on the restaurant across the street, correct?
Yes.
That's the Dragon Walk, was the restaurant?
Yeah.
And prior to coming to court, we showed you some security video that captured you and other employees going out to the vehicle, correct?
Yes.
And that also shows, we also use some of the footage from inside the store to show when you guys leave the store to go out there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Having reviewed that video, does it all fairly and accurately depict the times that you and other employees went out to the SUV about the bill?
Yes.
And we are going to offer Exhibit 31. And so we see you then here sort of behind your coworker. And tell us about then, did you have a conversation with the occupants of the car?
Sort of. I notified them that they needed to come back into the store and that the bill was fake and that my boss wanted to talk to them. To George, actually. Sorry, not to both of them, just to George.
And so when you approached the car from the passenger side, did you see how many people were in the car?
3.
And where were the 3 people in the car?
George was in the driver's seat. His friend was in the passenger seat, and there was a woman in the back seat in the middle, or possibly on the right, back behind the passenger.
And so, had you seen any of those individuals before that day?
No,
Had you seen them in the store earlier?
just the male.
And when you had this conversation with the vehicle, who were you talking to?
The person that George was with.
So the guy in the passenger seat, the front
Correct.
passenger? And did you make any observations at that time of Mr. Floyd?
Correct.
What did you see regarding Mr. Floyd?
He just seemed like he didn't want this to happen. Like he was just kind of like, why is this happening? Sort of thing.
Did he seem awake?
Yes.
And did he talk to you at all?
Not really. He just kind of shook his head.
And the passenger in the front passenger seat, did he talk to you at all?
Correct.
And I want you to tell us what he said, but the end result, did they agree to come into the store?
No.
When you were there at the vehicle,
Now that's tough.
who did you do most of the talking to?
The person in the passenger seat.
And did you think that you were talking loud enough for the other people in the vehicle to hear?
Correct.
And so then after that conversation, what did you do after that?
I went back inside with my coworker.
And when you got back inside the store, what did you do?
I told my manager that he did not want to come into the store.
And did you get some further direction then from your manager?
Correct.
And what was that?
Go back outside again and tell him to come inside the store so we can talk to him.
All right, so try it again, in other words.
Correct.
And then for that second trip, did you go with some different, some other coworkers?
Correct.
What was going on at this point in time?
I think that was the conversation I had with my manager when I was saying that he did not want to come inside, but I'd offered to pay, but he said no, just tell him to come back inside.
So did you tell your manager you would just take care of the 20?
I believe so. I did.
And but he directed you then to go back to the vehicle again.
Correct.
Now we saw you go out on the first trip with another individual, another employee,
Correct.
and he did not come back into the store.
No, he left.
And so when you were told by the manager to go out a second time, did you take some other coworkers with you?
Correct.
Whose idea was that?
I'm not sure.
Okay, for the record, now we're back outside again, correct?
Correct.
And the record should reflect that we paused at 20:21:43. So we see that 2 other individuals coming out before you, correct? And there's appears to be a woman in a black jacket, correct?
Correct.
And is she a coworker, or was she at the time?
Correct.
And she worked there longer than you?
Correct.
And the other individual has a white T-shirt on, and he worked there longer than you?
Correct.
Is he actually related to the owners of the store?
Correct.
And so they were out ahead of you at this point, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you had to sort of jog to keep up with them, didn't you?
Correct.
Records should reflect 2022-15 as the timestamp when we paused it. The individual in the white T-shirt initially went up to the driver's side, correct?
Correct.
And we see you standing here behind the SUV, correct?
Correct.
And eventually the individual in the white T-shirt went around to the passenger side door, which was open.
Correct.
And were you able to hear the conversation that the guy in the white T-shirt was having with the occupants of the vehicle?
At this point in time, I was not able to hear.
So then let's run the video some more, please. All right, now we see, if we can pause here, please. This is 2022-21. You walked up to the passenger side of the SUV, correct?
Correct.
So at this point, were you able to hear the conversations that the individual in the white T-shirt was having with the occupants?
Correct.
And were you also able to hear what the occupants of the vehicle were saying and doing?
Correct.
And can you describe for the jurors then what occurred during this period at the SUV?
So the second time I went out, the person in the passenger seat was doing most of the talking. We were telling him, just come inside, we just want to talk to George. And the person in the passenger seat was saying how that's not me. Like, I tried to use a fake bill and you put me on game, so I ripped it. And that'll happen in the video because he also tried to use a fake bill that I did not let him use. And then he ripped it and he put it on the ground there. So he was just explaining like what happened.
And so, just to be clear, you said the passenger seat, you're talking about the front passenger seat.
Correct.
And at that time, did you have any interaction with Mr. Floyd directly?
I do not recall.
All right. So let's run Exhibit 31 a little bit. I'm going to pause it here real quickly, please. For the record, it's 2022-34. We saw the individual in the white T-shirt bend over and pick something up. Can you tell the jury what was happening there?
He was picking up the fake bill that the individual in the passenger seat tried to use.
And reference earlier, one that was torn in half.
Correct.
Is that the bill that was torn in half?
Correct.
All right. The timestamp reflects 2023-35. It appears the two of you are now walking away from the SUV, correct?
Correct.
So during those preceding moments, it appears that the two of you are talking with at least some occupants of the vehicle.
Correct.
And did you have any conversations with Mr. Floyd, or was it just the front seat passengers?
Just the front seat passenger.
Were you able to see Mr. Floyd at all during that interaction?
Correct.
What did you see about him?
As I said earlier, he was just kind of shaking his head, putting his hands in the air, like kind of like, why is this happening to me? Like, I don't want this to happen, sort of thing.
And so he appeared to be awake.
Correct.
And so what was the end result of that conversation?
George Floyd did not choose to come into the store.
Neither did the passenger front.
Correct.
Aficionado. I'm a fashionista.
Sneakerhead. Metalhead.
Yeah. Audiophile.
Gamer. I'm a foodie.
Whatever this is.
Obsession has many names. This is ours, the new Lexus IS. All in on the sports sedan. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
All right, so at the end of that video shows you and the other individual entering back into the store, correct?
Correct.
Okay. When you got back into the store, what did you do about the 2 trips out to the vehicle?
We told our manager that he still refused to come into the store.
Do you know what the manager decided to do about that?
He instructed one of my coworkers to call the police.
And So did you know if that happened?
Correct.
That somebody did call the police?
Correct.
Was it you who called the police about it?
No.
Was it another coworker?
Correct.
And did you ask the coworker to make the call?
No.
And were you present when he made the call?
Correct.
So you were there next to him or something?
Correct.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
So at some point, did the police respond to the store?
Correct.
And when they responded, did you see the officers actually come into the store?
I do not recall.
Did they deal with you when they came to the store?
No.
Do you know who they dealt with?
They went and talked to my manager.
And you were not involved in the conversations with the officers at all at that time?
No.
So what did you do?
I was still working cashier.
You just went about your business.
Correct.
And as you did that, as you continued working, did you notice a commotion out in front of the store?
Correct.
Do you recall what it was that sort of first drew your attention out there?
I just saw a few people at first, and then the crowd grew larger. And pretty soon the store was empty as well, so there was no one that I needed to help inside the store, so then I proceeded to go outside to see what was happening.
When you saw this crowd gathering, where was the crowd?
It was right where the bus stop is on Chicago,
So kind of right in front
or
of
a little to the left,
right in front of the store.
10 paces.
I'm sorry, I spoke over you.
Sorry, I was just saying it was just 10 paces to the left of the bus stop.
All right. And so the bus stop, as you're looking out from the store?
Correct.
And so did you, in fact, decide to go out and look into what the crowd was gathering for?
Correct.
And when you went out there, what did you see?
I saw people yelling and screaming. I saw Derek with his knee on George's neck on the ground.
So let me back up just a little bit. Now, you say Derek, do you mean Mr. Chauvin?
Correct.
Now, did you know who that person was at the time?
No.
So you just learned his name since then?
Correct.
So was that person wearing a police uniform?
Correct.
And where did you see that individual?
On top of George Floyd.
And you didn't, well, other than seeing Mr. Floyd that day, you did not know him before that.
Correct.
Did you recognize him as the person who had been in the store earlier?
Correct.
The person that you had tried to talk to in the SUV?
Correct.
And did you see any other officers in the area?
I saw, I think his name is Officer Powell.
Where did you see him?
He was in front of the crowd, kind of telling people to stand back.
And do you remember about how many people were in the crowd?
About several.
And when they were, well, what did you see the officer on Mr. Floyd? What was the relation of their two lives? What was happening there?
This is crazy.
George was
Why are you
motionless, limp, and Chauvin seemed very, he was in a resting state, meaning like he just rested his knee on his neck.
And what did you do when you saw that?
I pulled my phone out first, and I called my mom and told her not to come downstairs, and then I started recording.
And did you make a recording?
Correct.
Did you keep that recording?
No.
Why not?
Later on that night, I deleted it because when they picked George up off of the ground, the ambulance went straight on 38th instead of going straight on Chicago. And if you live in South Minneapolis, the easiest way to get to the hospital would have been straight on Chicago. So that to me kind of made it like clear that he was no longer with us.
So you thought he had died?
Correct.
Not quite sure why that would, make you delete the video?
Oh, I just didn't want to have to show it to anyone or be questioned.
And so after you called your mom, you started taking a video, what did you do after that?
I was recording until one of my coworkers was pushed by an officer.
And so what had you seen the coworker do right before the push?
He was yelling at the officer, kind of how the other people in the crowd were doing, and asking them to check his pulse, if he's breathing, see if he's okay, kind of thing.
So did he leave the sidewalk, the curb area, and go onto the road?
Correct.
How far?
I do not recall.
This coworker of yours that got pushed,
This is sad.
do you know how old he was that day?
I do not recall.
Is he older or younger than you?
Younger.
So, teenager.
Correct.
And after he got pushed, did you see what happened to him or what became of him?
Yes. My other coworker just like grabbed him up and brought him inside.
So removed him from the scene?
Correct.
And prior to coming into court, did we show you a security video from Cup Foods that shows that area?
Correct.
And that area while you were out there?
Correct.
And did that appear to depict truly and accurately the time period during which you were out there during this incident?
Correct.
And Your Honor, I'd offer then what we've marked as exhibit.
All right, let's get this thing started.
33 is received.
All right, so now I'm going to start showing exhibit 33. And we may pause this like we had done the other videos, all right? I'm going to pause it right here for a moment. You recognize this scene?
Correct.
And this is you in the foreground? Right?
Correct.
And what were you doing right at that moment?
That was when I was calling my mom to tell her not to come down the stairs.
And if she were to come down the stairs, this is where you were living, correct?
Correct.
Is the door she would have come out, would that have been this scene?
Correct.
Can you take that stylus and just show where that door would be?
It would swing open right here.
So if she had come down, she'd have come right into this scene, correct?
Correct.
And then you talked about a coworker who was younger than you, who came out. Is that the individual in the white t-shirt?
Correct.
All right. For the record, this is 8/28/34. And can you describe for the jurors what you're doing at this moment?
I was recording the scene.
There we go.
So you had walked farther over towards the scene.
Correct.
It's
Really
not gonna
by the
work.
door where
I already see we got a
Mom would
problem.
Come out if she'd come out.
Correct.
And the individual in the white
Already
t-shirt,
see we got a problem.
what he had stepped off the curb into the street.
All of that for nothing.
All right. And so then let's continue to run exhibit
This
33.
thing's loading. Why?
And we can pause right there, please, at 8/28/41.
What is this?
Is that the moment you were talking about when your coworker got pushed?
Correct.
And did you see it all anywhere in there where he touched the police officer?
No.
And so then you are now standing around behind that group of people, correct?
Correct.
Did you know anybody in that crowd?
My two coworkers.
All right. So right now, if you could just put like a line or a dot on where your two coworkers are. And both of those are individuals who went out during the second trip to the SUV, correct?
Correct.
And did you know any of the other people there in the crowd at the time?
Not at the time.
Okay. Did you know Miss Punard?
I think. Yes.
You know Alyssa Punard?
Yes.
Was she there at the time?
Correct.
Do you see where she is now?
I'm waiting for this to show up
And
on the
how do you
screen.
know her?
Just through school.
And all right, so then let's continue to run exhibit 33, please.
Do I have Connect for it to work?
Now stop right here, please. Can you describe for the jurors and what we're seeing, what's going on there in that segment of the video?
That was when one of the coworkers kind of grabbed up the other coworker and brought him back inside, and I was just yelling like, "Chill out, chill out, chill out."
And so when his coworkers came to get the young man in the white T-shirt, he went with them back into the store.
Correct.
And you were following them?
Correct.
All right, so let's continue to run 33 then.
All right, now it should come up. But it's not.
Now I'm going to pause here for a moment, please. For the record, A2904, can you tell the jurors what happened, what you were doing here?
At this point, I think I was just kind of emotional, and I went to the African American that was standing there in the curb, and I was just like they're not gonna.
I didn't press.
This is what we have to deal with.
Cool.
So
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I don't know why it's not on.
Yeah, that's fine. So you
Yeah, I
had a
can see the
conversation
screen
with
right
another
now.
person standing there.
correct.
And
Come on.
when you walked up there, we saw just before I stopped it, there was a young girl there in a green shirt. Did you see her when you were walking up there?
Correct.
You remember seeing her in the store earlier?
Correct.
Did you
No,
know who
it's
she
not working.
was?
No.
Streamlabs sucks
And,
right now.
Do you remember being the cashier when she was in the store earlier?
Correct.
And then can we continue to run Exhibit 33, please?
Yep, not working. All right, let's see what went wrong.
I'm going to pause here for a moment. The record should reflect 8:29:55. We saw you standing there with your hands on your head for a while, correct?
Correct.
What was going through your mind during that time period?
Disbelief and guilt.
Why guilt?
If I would have just not taken the bill, this could have been avoided.
We also saw another individual get pushed by an officer, correct?
Correct.
And what did you do after that happened?
I was just trying to calm him down, tell him to stand back.
So, and all right, so let's continue running 33 then. Who are you talking to there, Mr. Or
My mom.
Okay, so that takes us to the end of Exhibit 33. You were going back into the store.
Right.
And so then did you just continue to work your shifts?
Correct.
And
I didn't even put it in. Ha! Oh, there it is.
so did you continue to work at Cup Foods as long as you could?
No.
Why not?
I didn't feel safe.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
I want bacon fries. $4 now at Arby's. Still got curlies at the Arby's. Arby's, we have the meats.
Hi Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
Telling me by text message here that it is believed all of the injuries and wounds to these officers are non-life-threatening, but the situation does continue to develop there in that section of Philadelphia, as it was characterized that that gunman had reloaded and was still shooting.
Okay, don't tell me this is going on right now.
Word from Police Commissioner Richard Ross, as he does with all of these things, heads to the hospitals, the trauma units, and the emergency rooms to try and make contact with his officers who have been caught up and involved in
live trying to fix this
chaotic melee there at that intersection in Nicetown, Tioga. So I continue to work my sources, but that is the latest, an emphasis on non-life-threatening, according to the Deputy Commissioner. I'll send it back to you.
Okay, Joe, thank you so much. That is a major emphasis.
Oh, I got it now. Okay, we good.
Of the 5 police officers that we have been talking about that have been injured in this chaotic scene,
I need to put 5 of them
are believed to be non-life-threatening. Now the business of taking care and finding the gunman.
Yeah, absolutely. So 3 officers, we understand, at Temple University Hospital right now, 1 at Einstein Hospital. But again, we can breathe a sigh of relief, thankfully, that all of the injuries that have been sustained in this gunfire are believed to be non-life-threatening. So that is at least some good news out of all of this chaotic scene there that is unfolding in the Tioga section of the city. Again, a huge police presence, even at this hour, an hour after the initial reports came in of narcotics activity in that area. Police officers responding to that call. Narcotics unit officers, we understand, obviously took on gunfire at that point. 4 officers wounded by gunfire. 1, we understand through Joe Holden's source, the Deputy Commissioner, that one of the officers was involved in a car accident and was injured in that way. But at least 4 officers wounded by gunfire, 3 at Temple Hospital, 1 at Einstein Hospital. A very, very active scene still unfolding there in Tioga. As you can see, that massive police presence that's still there even at this hour.
And we changed our location just a little bit. We're at that major intersection. Now it looks like we're over a side street in the area. Once again, we do not know if someone has been trapped there as far as the gunman is concerned, but that's the center of the location that we're looking at right now. Police presence continues to be on scene. We've seen medics, EMTs, Philadelphia police, Temple
Wait, did this just happen?
Sheriff's Department. And it all started around the 3700 block of North Philadelphia. A major intersection, but right now it seems to be centered around that side street that you saw right there. If you're not familiar with the area, this is what it looks like. There's Erie Avenue there at the center of your screen. At North 15th Street, the Nicetown, Tioga section
this is crazy.
of the city when all this broke out, as we've been telling you this evening for the last hour, about a little over an hour ago. And you're looking live from Chopper 3. Kim Davis is at Temple University Hospital. Our Joe Holden is working with sources. Greg Argos is very close to the scene right now. As you might imagine, the media can get but so close, because this is dangerous for everyone. We're letting the professionals do what they do. You're looking at the pros, the brave men and women of our Philadelphia Police Department right there.
Yeah, and we're going to go back to Greg. Speaking of Greg Argos, who was a couple of blocks away from where this all unfolded there in Tioga, 3700 block. Greg, you told us you're a couple blocks away. You're along West Erie Avenue or in that area. It was still appearing to be a very dangerous situation, even for you describing it just a short time ago. What are you seeing now?
It's still very active, and as you mentioned, Natasha, very dangerous. Police officers who are blocking this side that we're on keep pushing the media and those living here on the block back, because as we've been reporting all afternoon, this is still a very active scene. The actual incidents of these shootings, if you look at that stop sign right there, happened around the corner, just about a few hundred yards from where I'm standing, but you can see officers here on this block every few minutes because this is still an ongoing situation, keep pushing us back. Now, you just heard from Joe Holden in his reporting that 4 of the officers that were shot have non-life-threatening injuries.
My God.
One was wounded apparently as he or she was responding to this scene. It appears in just the last few seconds that you can see some of the undercover officers, some of the clothed officers moving some of the vehicles and moving away from the scene. It looks like they're not rushing, which is a good indication. This might at least be devolving in some sense right now, but we're watching this live as you are as well. Within the past, let me give you a little bit of a sort of a timeline of what happened.
Okay, this is active. This is going on right now.
That is where radio traffic, standard traffic reported that at least one officer was shot. And that is when, quite frankly, all hell broke loose. Officers from around the city centering their attention on responding as quickly as possible to this scene, the 3700 block of North 15th Street. Once an officer is down, it's basically all hands on deck. Us in the media, to give you the information, we tried getting here as quickly as possible, but as you can imagine, with such a serious situation, it takes time. Roads are closed, crime scene tape goes up.